So everyone, I just reviewed Soma Saito's Nuance, the 4th EP, and I have a lot of impressions, and some positive and some negative ones, because this was the fastest EP I've ever reviewed in my life from Soma Saito, and I usually take 6 hours on average to review an EP, and this one took me 1 hour and a half. So let's go into detail about Nuance, Soma Saito's 4th EP, which will be polarizing. The first thing that I bring here is that Mayohiga is massive. This is the heaviest song in Soma Saito's repertoire by far, which up until now was occupied by Palette and Hayano. Mayohiga is heavier in all aspects. The sound is much darker, much more intense, much more powerful. I like the muffled vocals all around. And you will find yourself wishing that Soma Saito actually dived more into heavy rock music, not heavy metal, but heavy rock music. In this case, I would say hard rock, which would be where this song sits at. In case you are not too familiar with rock music and you may think that this is a heavy rock song, this is not a heavy rock song. It is one of the heaviest songs in Soma Saito's repertoire, but by no means this is a heavy song. It is a hard rock song. This is not heavy metal as well. It has influences, and you can tell that there are influences of heavy metal in there. For sure, the guitar solo is mind-blowing, so prepare yourselves. But everything about the song is quite aggressive, quite violent, quite intense, and this immediately shot this song as my favorite in this EP, by far. Then we have the second point, which is that the Nuance is actually a soft concept, just like fictions. So I believe it is time to say goodbye to the heavy, deep, and overly complex concepts that Soma Saito used to have, especially with Yin Yang and My Beautiful Valentine, and even In Bloom. That's no longer the vibe that Soma Saito has in his music. You saw with Fictions, the album was extremely experimental, and he said that with the albums he's going to be experimental, so that was to be expected, some unpredictability there. However, when you go to the EPs, he usually is more cohesive, and he is more cohesive in this EP, thankfully, but the concept is no longer overly complex, and there is no underlying meaning going on in there. There's no overall story that goes from track 1 to the hidden track. You don't have that. Once again, this is another album that you can listen to any song out of order and it works for you. You can just listen to the songs out of order and you are fairly okay, just like with Fiction. So that's a good thing for people trying to get into Soma Saito's music and that feel slightly overwhelmed with overly complex conceptual albums, like those 3 that I mentioned, which are basically his magnum opuses. So Saito has said in interviews that this is meant to be a soft type of concept, in the sense of this is about nuances. Nuances are really hard to actually capture and to explain to others, and in this case he wanted to bring slightly different feelings and emotions that are not usually captured in music, and make those sort of a musical interpretation of them, even if it is really hard to actually capture those feelings. And different people will understand different things when coming across his music. Soma Saito has said in an interview for Vanity Mix that he doesn't care about how people think about his music, as long as they don't think he has a message in his music, which he doesn't. He has confirmed none of his music has a message, so stop thinking he has a message in his music. So that's that. The concept is vague. Each song is an interpretation of a specific feeling or emotion that is slightly vague for you to understand. Some people may not even understand the concept of that specific song by the end of the album, or even after 1 or 2 weeks listening to it. So be ready for this album to not feel as complex or as mind-blowing as previous ones, but still the songs are fairly good. Number 3, Rain Shoes, one of the last songs, or let's say for everyone getting the album on streaming platforms, that's the last song in the CD. Feels like a spiritual successor to Saint Obsession, a hidden track in Yin Yang. Now, Some of you may not have heard Saint Obsession because you don't have the physical CD and the song is not available online, at least legally. So you may not know what I'm talking about, some of you. Others may know what I'm talking about and may be thinking, but Vanessa, Saint Obsession is completely different in terms of vibe. If you slow down Saint Obsession, it's almost the same song as Rain Shoes. That's almost the same tiptoeing vibe that you have there, almost as if it is mocking you. In Saint Obsession, it was actually mocking the listener. But in here, he's not necessarily mocking the listener because the song has a completely different vibe and the lyrics have nothing to do with that. And in Yin Yang, you had a really strong concept with the story from start to finish. Here you don't have that. So the only difference that I would say between Rain Shoes and Saint Obsession, the two big ones are, the tempo in Saint Obsession is completely different. It is slightly faster, but still slow. And also the narrator is mocking the listener. And here in Rain Shoes, the narrator is not mocking the listener. You don't have a story to begin with. You have a small story that is contained in that song, but it's not the story in the album, or the EP in this case. But that song feels like Saint Obsession. I had to double check it and I listened to Saint Obsession and the vibe is almost the same, especially the tiptoeing that comes with the Rain Shoes. That is from either a glockenspiel or a xylophone in there. It's almost the same with what we have in Saint Obsession. If you have access to the song, compare the two and let me know if you think those are almost the same if you slow down the song. Number 4, and we are still talking about Rain Shoes. Rain Shoes has one of the biggest guitar solos I've ever heard in Soma Saito's repertoire. It's not because it is the most shredding guitar solo ever, it is because it is a really emotional guitar solo. The guitar is screaming alongside Soma Saito's slow, gentle vocals, and it is almost like a reflection of what is inside and can't be said. And it is mirroring the vocals. The vocals are rising the tension and the guitar is rising the key to a point that it is really screaming loudly. It's beautiful, that section. It's midway through the song. It's not even a bridge. I wouldn't even categorize that as a bridge unless you are categorizing that as a bridge because the song structure is out of the normal way that you would expect for a rock song. But that whole guitar section in a solo following Soma Saito's vocals is mind-blowing. I would fully recommend you to listen to it over and over again because it's beautiful. And one thing that I wish is that Soma Saito actually plays that part himself instead of Saku when it comes to the live performance, because it's so epic to the point that it mirrors what he did with Isana live. I really like what we have in there, and Rain Shoes is a song that is it's going to be quite polarizing because the vibe is off from start to finish in this song. You have a waltz-like vibe with jazz rhythm, and that seems off when it comes to the tempo, but the tempo is actually a natural 4/4, so it's crazy what you have in there in terms of what you hear and perceive and what is the reality. That's another nuance that you need to pay attention to. Once again, the concept is explored in completely different ways across the songs that you find in this EP. So this is kind of a slow burn of an EP that you will have to listen to multiple times until you find it if you really truly love it. I feel that in some capacity I had the same vibe with Yin Yang, in which I didn't know if it was the best that Soma Saito had put out or if it was the worst. And after a second listen, yeah, it was one of the best. But it usually Soma Saito has a kind of it doesn't have a middle ground. He either has a really fast burn type of EP in which you are immediately grabbed by it, or it is a slow burn type of EP. You need a couple of listens until you get really into what is happening and you understand the magic of it. Then we have the fifth reason, it's that we have a full-on rock sound. If you are a fan of rock music and you felt that Fictions were a bit too poppy for your taste, or you felt that there was too much of that sort of garage band type of rock music, you have a slight different take on the garage rock type of music, but you have less, almost no pop music here. The only song that I would categorize as pop would be Rakujitsu. and the song is still a mixture of jazz with city pop and rock music. So not necessarily a full-on pop song, but it is pop rock if you are going to categorize it as something. But other than that, all the songs are rock from start to finish. So if you are into rock music and you wish that Soma Saito did more rock instead of what he did with Fictions, which had a balance between pop and rock and shoegaze rock, this would be your thing. So prepare yourselves. This is an album full of rock songs, so prepare those horns up. In 6 we have LOL, which has a weird song structure. It only has 2 choruses, and the guitar solo is after the very second verse. So you are really robbed of a second chorus right there, then to have a bridge, then to have that third chorus that would end a song in a typically normal rock song structure, in which you have 2 verses and 3 choruses in some way, and a bridge as well. In this case, he actually plays around with that, and he cuts things off quite early, and you have a guitar solo midway through the song, and then you go to the second chorus and you are thinking, yeah, I still have 1 minute left. No, the song is wrapping up. So prepare yourself to be surprised, because LOL is a song that is really playing around and just being fun from start to finish. In a way, I felt that the song structure, while it was different from any other song that, or many of the songs that Soma Saito has released before, in terms of the tone, it felt like a reversal of Carpool. Carpool is a really dark song, and when you dive deep into the lyrics, it's a really depressing song. But in this case, LOL is really carefree, really fun. It is in a major key, which is rare for Soma Saito to write songs in major key. It's a really upbeat type of song, fun from start to finish, but underneath it all, it has that same going on a journey type of vibe. Same thing with After School. So those 2 songs kind of mirror Carpool, but give it a different twist, a happier twist to it, if you get what I mean. 7th, we have Distortion and Overdrive being a big feature in this EP. So either Soma Saito went and bought a ton of distortion pedals, or actually this was something that they played around in the studio and they found it fun and they rolled with it. There's a ton of distortion when it comes to the guitars, overdriven guitars as well from start to finish. Most of the vocals are muffled or distorted as well. So there's a ton of playing around with presenting the music in different ways, not just clean, straightforward ways, but really playing around with what we can deliver there, and that's a ton of fun what we have there. Now, I'm going to add here a bonus, is that this EP, while it may sound upbeat, it's not necessarily an upbeat EP. It's still darker, or dark. I will say darker than Fictions, but not darker than Yin Yang. Yin Yang is the darkest of dark for Soma Saito. But this one is slightly dark at times. So please dive into that when you can. When it comes to my grips with this EP, I have 2 big problems with this EP. First, shoegaze, which was the music genre that defined Fictions and was a genre that was being explored basically since Isana in Bloom, was nowhere to be found in this EP. You don't have any single song that is categorized as basically shoegaze rock, or has a full-on section with shoegaze elements. You have one section with a delay pedal and some reverb, but I wouldn't categorize that as a shoegaze rock song. So no shoegaze whatsoever in this EP, which may tick some people off. Vocally, there's barely any falsetto by Soma Saito, although we have 2 songs in which he goes full-on falsetto in the choruses. The rest of the CD is fairly straightforward vocally, nothing really impressive beyond what is already expected from Soma Saito, which is a ton of quality. Here he does have a couple of instances in which he goes and explores falsetto, but not as much as you would have loved and not as much as he usually does, which may come off as slightly weird or unexpected. Once again, he wanted the sound to be as straightforward and as band-like as possible, and especially with that feel from the 90s, early 90s garage rock band sound. falsetto is not really a thing in those types of bands if you go check the music from that era, so you will understand why he was not that keen on being all about falsetto. Those would be my grips when it comes to, or problems when it comes to this EP, but overall it's a really strong EP. You will have a ton of fun. There's tons of rock songs in here. You have plenty of awesome moments. The bass line is insane, the drums are getting better and better. The guitar work gets even crazier. Every time that you get a guitar solo, you get a proper long guitar solo. It's not the ones that you get for most seiyuu artists, in which the solo is over and done in 10 seconds. You have a really long guitar solo that will grab your attention and put you on the edge of your seat and want more and more and more. So yeah, that's a fun as heck EP. If I had to rank this EP would be number 3 out of 4 EPs, which is not that good, but when you are trying to compare this EP with the greatness that is, the greatness and the genius that is My Beautiful Valentine and Yin Yang, it's a bit unfair, because by itself, if you don't compare anything, it's a solid as heck release, and one that you are going to find really fun. For people trying to get into Soma Saito's music, this has been the best release that you can get into. I feel that with Fictions and now with Nuance, more fans are going to get into Soma Saito's music because it is getting easier to understand. I'm waiting for the twist that now Soma Saito is actually making us get used to these softer type of concept, and then he may arrive with something so completely left field, so completely weird, that will make our jaws drop in awe. So I'm waiting for that to happen. Once again, he said he's not really caring about that, so he will create whatever he wants to create, and we just have to sit back and enjoy the ride as he creates more music and tries to get awesome stuff out. And well, we just have to wait for something else. As usual, Soma Saito releases 2 EPs before a full-length album. Since Fictions was the full-length album released last year, and Nuance is the EP released this year, next year we may have, if Saito continues to follow this structure, next year we may have another EP to round up with a full-length album release in 2027. So this will be interesting to see what Saito can pull off next, because every EP has its own identity. That's something that I love a whole lot. You can see that he is going through different phases in his career as an artist as well within each specific EP. And although I love the darkest stuff, I still enjoy this one a lot. But still, tough concept to tackle, Nuance, and even tougher performance or execution of that concept to make it so that everyone can understand what is there. And as Saito has said, many people will have completely different opinions about the songs and completely different interpretations about the songs. There is no true interpretation of a song because this is about nuances. Everyone will perceive different nuances within a song and will perceive different feelings and emotions in completely different ways. So please be mindful of that. What may be amazing for some will not be for others, because this is about nuances, the little details that make a difference. And in this case, for Soma Saito's EP, it made quite the difference when it comes to comparing with the others, and within itself, it made it a really strong EP. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.